it's Andy, and today I'm going to be doing a really sort of thrown together video because the video that was meant to be going up corrupted and everything went to hell and I'm not filming it again. So what I'm going to do is do a recommendations video. So this will be recommendations for spooky season, autumn. This is the sort of bunch of books that I managed to pull together that I think give those sort of spooky vibes and would be good to read as it's coming into spooky season and autumn. I don't know if it'll be coming through on the audio or not, but if I sound funny it's because I have 3 ulcers currently in my mouth, one down here, one up here and one on my tongue, and they really hurt, so every time I talk it hurts. So if my voice is a bit funny, that might be why. But yeah, anyway, I'm just going to get straight into my recommendations because, like I say, this has been thrown together, so the planning has been very, very minimal, and I'm just going to do the video and see how it comes out. Now, just to preface this, these are only books that I've read. I pulled the books off of my shelves. As you can see, there's a massive stack missing here. I've popped Mr. Bat here. I got this in the last year's Spookathon, I think. Somebody bought it for me, so I feel like he's my little Spookathon mascot, so he's here with me. So yeah, I've pulled these books from the books that I have read. None of these books are books that I have not read, so I will be giving you sort of full thoughts on why I think these would be great autumnal spooky books. So the first is Gallant by V. Schwab. This is a story about our main character, who is Olivia Pryor, and she has her mother's diary and she's been reading through this while she's in this orphanage, and the one thing her mother's book says is do not go to Gallant. However, she then receives a letter from her uncle asking her to come to Gallant because she has a family there that she had no idea she had. She then goes to Gallant, and this is where things start to get really, really spooky. I mean, she can already see ghouls, and they appear to her as sort of like parts of people. So like, she won't necessarily get a full image of a person. It'll be like an eyeball and some teeth and like a general shape, but it's all like creepy ghouly sort of thing. So she can see these ghouls and nobody else can, and then when she goes to Gallant she discovers why she can see these ghouls and why her mother said never to go to Gallant. It is spooky and atmospheric and a really quick read, but I think this is excellent for spooky season. It certainly has that atmosphere, you know, the big mansion with the creepy gardens, everything's kind of crumbling, and you know, she's not to go out after dark because that's when things start going awry, but she does anyway. But yeah, I think this is fantastic for spooky season. Even this edition, you see the incredible illustrations. It is just dark and spooky and but not like scary, because I don't do horror. My next recommendation is a duology that I've technically not finished. I'm halfway through the second book as I'm filming this, but I've read enough to know that it definitely gives spooky autumn vibes, and that is For the Wolf and For the Throne by Hannah Whitten. These are kind of loose Red Riding Hood stories, so the whole point is that 2 sisters are born to this matriarchal queendom, and the first sister is for the throne, the second sister is for the wolf. And Red, who is our main character in For the Wolf, she is the second daughter, and when she comes of age she is to go into the Wilderwood and be sacrificed to the wolf. And while Nevera, her twin, is for the throne, but Nevera does not want to let Red go that easily. But little do they know that the wolf is not this terrifying, hideous creature. He is just a man, and he would like them very much not to sacrifice people if they could. So this sort of follows Red as she goes to the Wilderwood, and it's a spooky, you know, woodland forest that's alive, and there are demons and creatures and a shadowlands, and just gives that eerie spooky vibes while also being a really interesting story. This follows on straight away from it, and sort of spends more time in the shadow realm, whereas this is really mostly in the Wilderwoods. But yeah, you get the perspective of both Red and Neve, who is her sister, and they are basically, Red is just trying to go and do her duty, and Maeve's trying to save her, and it's amazing to see the sisterly love and the way they will sort of go back for each other. But the interesting, relationship with the wolf and the Wilderwood, and the stories that are actually not quite stories. It's just such a good vibe, such a fantastic story, and I'm halfway through For the Throne right now, and like literally halfway through, and I'm really, really enjoying it so far. I'm just trekking through it slowly because I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, these two definitely give spooky, forest, autumnal vibes, demons, spooky, like it's great. The next trilogy I could not get away with without mentioning, and that is the A Discovery of Witches trilogy. So you've got, excuse me while I drop things, A Discovery of Witches, Shadow of Night, and Book of Life. This is a trilogy based around Diana, who is a witch, but she doesn't necessarily want to be a witch, so she's sort of pushed down her powers, and she's a very mediocre witch. Whereas she comes from one of the sort of best families, like the strongest families in America. And she then meets Matthew, who is an old vampire, part of an old family, and witches, vampires and demons are not meant to mingle, they're not meant to spend time together, and you're most certainly not supposed to fall in love. This starts off in Oxford, and in the Book of Life they actually go back in time and then come back again in Shadow of Night, but you've got your creatures, your vampires, demons, witches, you've got that autumnal vibe there, you've got Oxford. It's Oxford for that sort of dark academia vibe. I just love this. Like the tagline of this, it begins with absence and desire, it begins with blood and fear, it begins with the discovery of witches. This is so atmospheric and so well written, and I absolutely adore it. It's one of my favourite trilogies ever. Times Convert, which is behind me there, is also part of this, but it's not part of the original trilogy, it just follows on afterwards. But these are most definitely, seriously atmospheric, spooky reads if you want to read them. The next is another spooky series, and that is The Library of the Dead by T.L. Hoodshue. I have only read this one, but it's a great start to a sort of on the younger side horror-esque thing. This follows our main character Ropa, who has dropped out of school and is a full-time sort of ghost whisperer. She was, it's a year, ghost stalker. So Edinburgh is Dead will come to her and she will pass on messages to their loved ones for a price. Her grandmother has this power, she has this power, it is part of her mixed heritage because she is Zimbabwean and Scottish, and it's part of this mixed heritage that she has this power and has this ability, but then she gets tied up in this horrible thing that's going on where kids are being kidnapped, and a concerned mother who is passed away has come to her to ask her to rescue her son. Initially Ropa doesn't want to help, but then she's actually quite tender-hearted, so she does, and gets herself in a lot of trouble. This is spooky, dystopian, apocalyptic. It is dark and it is dangerous and it is so with the spooky vibes, so I definitely recommend this. I've not read the second one yet, but as soon as I get the second one I will read it. Next up is another trilogy that I absolutely love, and that is The Magicians. So you've got The Magicians, The Magician King and The Magician's Land. This is basically about our main character Quentin, who is selected to go to this magic school. It's more of a magical college, where they have like frats and things like that, and it's a pretty interesting magic system that they have set up. There's also this land in here called Fillory, which is pretty much a Narnia rip-off completely. I mean, I'm pretty sure lots of work would have had to be done without copyright infringement being, put on Narnia and plagiarism. But part of the reason I love this series is because Narnia is one of my favourite books of all time, or favourite series of all time. So this is, college age idiot kids playing with magic, playing with gods that they don't understand, spooky academic vibes because you've got this school, they're learning their powers, and then you've got this other land as well that they enter into. But yeah, I don't really know how to describe it like, it's described a lot as an adult Harry Potter, but I don't agree with that at all. It's very, very much Narnia heavy. Yes, he goes to the school at first, the magic school, but you do actually get to go into the classes, and it is very interesting, but it's not, I just can't really say myself that it's like an adult Harry Potter. I don't think so. I think if you enjoyed Harry Potter you would enjoy this, but it is very, very adult. There are trigger warnings for a lot of things in this, so I would definitely look them up if you plan to read these, but these to me just speak a totally spooky fall vibes. The next is The Lost Book of Salem by Catherine Howe. This is based in Salem, and our main character comes from a family of witches, and she's not quite aware of that, but then moves into her great aunt's, a grandmother's cottage. Connie discovers that she actually comes from a long line of witches. Now, of course, this all goes back to the Salem witch trials, and we all know those were not pleasant. This is a fantastic book about Connie finding her powers, finding love, and then that being sort of put in danger by someone who wants to twist magic and use Connie's family's power for his own benefit. I think this is a fantastically interesting book. I would love to see more people reading it because I think it's a fantastic and totally underrepresented book. I've never heard anybody else reading this. If you have read this, please tell me, because I love this book. This is what got me into historical fiction, really. It was first published in 2009, and I've not spoken to a single other person that's read this book. The author herself is descended from two women, Elizabeth Proctor and Elizabeth Howe, who were two accused Salem witches. You might recognise the name Proctor if you like The Crucible, because yes, that is John Proctor's wife that she is descended from. So I absolutely love this. I love the fact that she is a historian and she has done her work in this. She has really dug into it, and this goes between a split timeline between now or present day in this and then back during the witch trials, and you get to see you know, the things that these people went through, and it's just, I need more people to read this, please. Next is the first of two classics that I'm going to be recommending, and that is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This I listened to an audiobook, and I think the audiobook does this absolute justice. It is creepy, it is gothic, it is about a main character whose curiosity gets the better of her, and she's going to this house to stay for a while, and as she's going there she's being told this tale about this house, covered up like it's not this house, and about the things that happened, and basically a ghost story. And then when she gets there she realises that it might not be so much of a story, but the way it's done is masterful, and the audiobook with all the, you know, like, you get to hear the creaking of the stairs and the wind, and it's just so gothic and so atmospheric and just incredible. This is probably one of my favourite Austens, and it's so quick to read. Like I say, I listened to the audiobook and it went like that because it's such a good audiobook. I listened to it, I think, in one sitting because I couldn't put it down, so I definitely recommend this. And if you've got Audible, I think it's on there for like part of the deal. Like, you don't need to spend a credit on it, it's just there for you to listen to, so I recommend giving that a read. The next one is a classic that I think I would be remiss to not recommend right now, and that's Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is possibly one of my favourite classics of all time. This was incredible. I absolutely loved this. Dracula I did not like, Jekyll and Hyde did not like, but this is fantastic. This is incredible. If you don't know what Frankenstein is about, where have you been? Basically, Dr. Frankenstein creates this monster from parts of people that he has dug up, and the monster comes to life and he starts to become aware, and it's such a fantastic book about humanity and the whole thing of like, who is really the monster? Is it, you know, Frankenstein's monster, or is it Frankenstein himself who has created this monster? This again is eerie and it has all the vibes of like a spooky season, and I mean, it's a classic monster story. You've got to read it. You know, I definitely recommend this. Dracula and Jekyll and Hyde, yeah, fair enough, read them if that's something you're into, but I found Dracula far too much to read, and Jekyll and Hyde was just too little. Like, I didn't realise how little was in the source material, but this just hit the nail right on the head. Mary Shelley has just absolutely knocked it out of the park. And the last thing that I'm going to recommend for this spooky season is the Stalking Jack the Ripper series. So we've got Stalking Jack the Ripper, Hunting Prince Dracula, Escaping from Houdini, and Capturing the Devil, all by Kerry Maniscalco. I'm going to put these down because these are heavy. Stalking Jack the Ripper follows our main character Audrey Rose, who is living in these, I think it's Victorian or Edwardian times, and Victorian, and she has been groomed by her parents to be the perfect Victorian lady, but she wants to learn science, she wants to be a doctor, she wants to be like her uncle who's a doctor but also works for the police, and she works as his apprentice alongside our other main character whose name I can't remember. Nope. But yeah, so basically after the killings of Jack the Ripper start, she decides she's going to be helping her uncle to try and discover who's killing all these people, and it just basically follows Audrey Rose as she learns the sort of world of forensics while hunting Jack the Ripper and falling in love, and it's just fantastic. And then it carries on, they all carry on one from each other, it's all following Audrey Rose, and then so this one they're, you know, looking for Jack the Ripper. In Hunting Prince Dracula they go to Castle Dracula for classes, forensic classes, and it follows them there and the interesting twists and turns that it takes there. I absolutely love the new characters that are introduced here. I think they are perfection, especially the sister. Escaping from Houdini takes us on a cruise to America where things start happening on the cruise, and Houdini happens to be one of the performers on the boat, but Audrey Rose decides that she needs to figure out what's happening. And finally, Capturing the Devil takes us to, I think it's the World Fair in Chicago, but there was a massive, I think it was the World's Fair that was in Chicago, and they go, but there happens to be murders happening, and Audrey Rose of course decides to get involved, and it's just a really nice sort of ending to all of the books. I really enjoy these. I really enjoy these. I know they're not everybody's cup of tea, but if you want that sort of gothic style mystery, possible monster sort of thing for the spooky season, I think that this is perfect. Again, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's certainly mine, and I just really recommend them. So that's everything I've got for you. That's all my recommendations for the spooky / autumn / fall season. Let me know if you've read any of these or if you think you'll pick them up after my recommendation. Some of them, actually I think all of them are fairly quick reads. I tried to pick things up that weren't too much. There are obviously a lot of things that I could have picked. I mean, I have a lot of creature horror stuff on here, or creature fantasy. You know, you've got your Cassandra Clare, even Twilight, you've got vampires, werewolves, Vampire Academy, you've got vampires. There's so much out there that depending on what you're looking for, you can find lots of. This is my first recommendation video, so I just wanted to pull out things that I would think immediately of sort of autumn, winter vibes, like that spooky season, cooling down sort of vibes, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and do please let me know in the comments if you're planning on reading any of these, or if you've already read them and what you thought of them, especially The Lost Book of Salem. If anybody's read that, come and talk to me. Come and like DM me on Twitter or something, just somebody talk to me about this book. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you get to enjoy at least one of these books over the spooky season. Thanks for watching, bye!